The independent candidates for December presidential elections took part in a maiden debate following the footsteps of Halifa Saleh and Dr. Cisse. The candidates hold discussions on various issues that they will undertake in their first 100 days in office. Central among them was corruption, and the presidential hopefulness say that they are determined to fight corruption in order for Gambia to register progress and save it from debt. Details in this report by Omar Ahmed Toure.
Corruption is said to be in existence for thousands of years, but it has increasingly attracted attention in recent years. Researchers believe it is impossible to measure corruption, but perceptions of corruption can be measured and actions can be taken to reduce it. Kitabu Fati, a presidential aspirant, believes Gambia suffers endemic corruption and mismanagement and says he would set up fraud committees in fighting corruption.
Then the PDP government, if we are elected into office, the first thing we'll do, we'll set up a committee, a fraud committee. Like I said before, corruption is the problem of this nation. And if, like, one thing should change in our government, like the Mandinka said, that is a problem in this country. If a person who is entrusted the place to run the place for the country believes that he needs to enrich himself first before doing something for the country, is a big problem. Then we have to set up a fraud committee, and as the assessment is going on with the situation analysis, we will have to go out with our whole government to go to the offices, to the sectors. We know what is happening in that places.
Factors that could influence corruption are the demand by public for corrupt acts and the supply of acts of corruption by public officials. To Tamsir Jasi, waging war on corruption is to make sure accountability triumphs in government.
If you are sent to the well to draw water in a pail that's full of holes, what is the likelihood that you'll be able to take any water back home? Chances are zero. The water is our resources. The pail is our nation. The holes is corruption. We are losing a lot in corruption. There is no way in the world where when people are left alone and not held accountable, they try to do the best they can. If you understand people, once they are being supervised, once they know they've been looked at, once they know they've been held accountable, they tend to behave better. Accountability is what's lacking in our government.
Researchers say the fight against corruption should not be seen independently. Instead, it is the state that should spearhead the crusade. Alaji Mamadi Kurang subscribes to this, saying fighting corruption means cleaning up your system, which has to begin from the top to ensure transparency.
Corruption starts with the president. In the Gambia, everything starts with the president. And the president must admit that. We are not electing a party. The Constitution gives the mandate not to a party, it gives the mandate to a president. So the ball ends and starts with the president. And people said the first thing you must do to tell us that your hands are clean, declare your assets. That's the beginning. Because if you don't, then there will always be some questions that cannot be answered. How much did you have before you become president? And how much did you have 5 years later? If that question cannot be answered, you cannot eliminate corruption.
Babukar Dieng, on the other hand, says attitudinal change, regulations and punishment would be ideal in fighting corruption.
When it comes to corruption, I think we have to use a broad approach, because at the end of the day, you're talking about human beings. We have our behaviors and we have our attitudes. And the same people that are involved in corrupt practices, they engage in corrupt practices simply because they have there's nothing that regulates them. I think we should focus on prevention, detection, and we have some form of punishment, if somebody is caught with doing corrupt practices.
Recently, the CEO of Kanivi Municipal Council, Senabu Martin Sonko, has been allegedly involved in an illegal transaction of $12 million, and that scandal has not been resolved. Last week, Marajan website revealed an investigation stating that the health ministry has wasted up to $90 million from a procurement transaction of medical items. The Gambia has a score of 37 out of 100 on Transparency International's 2020 Corruption Perception Index, an improvement from 2016 when it scored 26 out of 100. But recently, the American government released a corruption report on Gambia ranking it amongst the most corrupt countries in the world. Reporting for iAfrica TV, this is Omar Ahmadu Toure.